This is Cohesion Connect with your host, Michelle Ricketts, and special guest, Martin Ricketts, the digital samurai.
Today the twins are sharing tools, tips, and techniques for developing intellectual property and building a self-sufficient standalone business. And now, here's Michelle.
Hello, I'm Michelle Ricketts. Welcome to Cohesion Connect. Today, my special interview guest is Martin Ricketts, the digital samurai, and my twin brother. Hey, Martin.
Hey, Michelle. Nice to see you.
Great to have you here today. Now, Martin, Digital Samurai is a leading managed service provider, what we call an MSP, working as the orchestra leader for marketing, strategy, and content production. Services for business owners. So they could build new recurring revenue streams. And I understand that the samurai part of Digital Samurai is because you have a samurai title. So tell us a bit about that.
Well, I hold a 5th degree black belt in sword and title of Kyoshi in karate, which means master instructor. And martial arts is all about efficiency and precision, and so is Digital Samurai.
Wow, that's impressive. And Kyoshi, that's a bit of a mouthful. So you bring your samurai thinking into the business, right?
That's right.
Okay, so Digital Samurai helps entrepreneurs, creators, and small to medium business owners eliminate technology chaos and scale their business in the digital age. So tell me, what's technology chaos?
Well, technology chaos is any friction between you and your data, you and your team. I can't find the file, the link didn't work, I didn't get the attachment, that kind of thing. People deal with it all the time. It's kind of like back pain. People just deal with it. But they don't have to. And we solve technology chaos.
Well, that's amazing. So let's get into the nuances of Digital Samurai and what sets your company apart from agencies. So you've got something called the Doctrine of One. It's comprised of 5 core strategies. So can you briefly describe these prime directives, these strategies, and how they relate to the doctrine?
Well, the Doctrine of One, Michelle, is a complete end-to-end system, where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's simplicity of one solution. Less is more. Leonardo da Vinci said simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, which is awesome. Simple is hard, which is why most systems are not simple. There are 5 elements to our system. The first element is what we call the prime directives. I'm a big Star Trek fan. They're the rules that govern everything that we do, Michelle. And there are 5 prime directives, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Excellent. So would a business owner in the audience benefit from implementing these ideas and prime directives?
Yeah, well, we start by thinking about first principles thinking. Data management and communications. Everything you do all day, every day is data management and communications. And how well you do that will largely determine how profitable you are long term. Fixing technology chaos first makes all your communications and interactions with the teams and outsourced workers more efficient. And less back and forth, less misunderstandings with communications, less meetings. The best meeting is no meeting. And so we want to solve for that and make it simple for people to interact.
Absolutely. And profitability and less meetings, that's what everyone wants, I'm pretty sure. So your prime directives are wise practices and what you call inspired standards. Elaborate on that for me a little bit. What does it mean?
Well, the prime directives are wise practices, inspired standards, as you said. And wise practice is, some use the term best practices, but they're actions taken on the journey to your goal. For example, for communications, communicating with clarity and precision is a wise practice for obvious reasons. Inspired standard is the desired outcome when you reach your goal. So an example of that would be prime directive number 1, always be as efficient as possible. That's an inspired standard that you aspire to as you go forward. And that's the difference between the two. But those two things make it so that you're more efficient and you have less friction in everything you do by setting these standards.
Wow, and yeah, clarity in communication is key. I always say you want to have the answer, the who, what, where, when, and how, and that way there's no questions coming back. So, yeah,
That's
tell
right.
us a bit more about these prime directives.
Well, there are 5 of them, I said. The first one, a number 1 prime directive, is the same as nature's prime directive. Always be as efficient as possible. If you look at the placement of leaves on various plants, they're positioned to maximize the amount of sunlight they can get with the minimum amount of effort. Communicate with clarity and precision to ensure maximum comprehension by the recipient. That's a challenging one because people aren't particularly good at communicating. But the sender should take responsibility for communicating, and that's what that prime directive is for. Number 3, always use the best tool for the job. Again, that puts constraints on what you can do because no company, not Apple, not Google, not Microsoft, makes the best tools for everything. And if you're using the best tool, and the litmus test for that is it efficient? Is it intuitive? Is it elegant? That's a very high bar. Number 4, a place for everything and everything of its place. I've seen some people's desktops and they got 500 things on them. We want you to put things in folders so that you can find them again. And that's really important.
Everything in its place, Martin, reminds me of growing up. That's one thing Mom always said, and I do that to this day. Things have a place.
That's right.
Whether it's on your computer or in your house, whatever it is.
Exactly, and it's easier to find things when you do that. This is thinking ahead, right? Number 5 is eliminate unnecessary actions through continuous refinement till there's nothing left to remove. That is very samurai thinking. Because the samurai, especially with sword, you're constantly refining what you're doing to make the movements more efficient, more streamlined, more precise. So doing that in technology also makes a lot of sense.
Yes, I can see that because it really ties into what you want to do, having that efficiency.
Exactly. Elegant is not usually a word you use, right?
Yeah, elegant I don't usually hear associated with tech. So what makes your solution elegant?
Well, a good example of elegant is tap and pay, right? You just tap the thing, you don't have to think about it. And that's what you want. You want frictionless processes that don't make you think. Einstein's quote, "A clever person solves a problem, a wise person avoids it in the first place." That's an elegant solution, not having the problem in the first place. We have proactive tactics that solve problems before they happen. For instance, we don't use email internally because it's simply not a good way of managing data. So the more proactive ways you can implement that solve problems before they happen, the better. And then reactive ones are good too. So if this happens, then you have a process to manage it. But proactively solving problems is the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely solving that problem before it happens. A lot of areas in life we would like to do that.
Yeah.
So how do these prime directives help to govern the work a digital samurai does?
Well, they put constraints on what's possible, right? There's 2 types of problems, 3 types of problems. There's a complex problem and a complicated problem. There's simple ones too. A complex problem is raising a child. There's many variables. You can't plan it out. One child will be good at this, the other child will be good at that. It's not something that you can structure. However, a complicated problem is sending a rocket to the moon. And NASA can send that rocket within feet of where it wants to because while it's complicated, it's quantifiable. It's math. So there is an answer. It's just complicated. So you can solve for complicated problems. So we made technology into a complicated problem by putting all these constraints that we're talking about, using the best tool, making sure you're efficient. And that is the way to take friction out of what you're doing.
Well, and that's an interesting differentiation, Martin, complex versus complicated. So why is that important to understand?
Because if you want to move towards more frictionless systems, more efficiency, then you can't solve complex problems. So you have to make it a complex problem. So that means, for instance, the doctrine of one says we have one place for communications, not 2, 1. It happens to be WhatsApp and WhatsApp desktop. But that means I don't have to think about where to look for communication if a client's trying to tell something or I'm telling them. There's one place to look for that. that is a constraint. So the more constraints you put, now, again, we've picked it, is it the best tool for the job? So you want to make sure that that's the case. But we have one place for communication, one place for notes, one place for files. And by putting constraints on all those things, you eliminate a lot of the friction because you've eliminated a lot of the choices. You know, Einstein used to wear the same suit every day. Not the same one, he had 7 different ones. Because he didn't want to think about what clothing to wear. So that lowered his cognitive load so he could focus on, you know, the big things that he wants to think about.
And I've heard you refer to that as decision fatigue, and that's true today. We're inundated with choices, whether it's social media, work, life, tasks, etc. So, what's an example of how you handle this?
Well, you want to, again, avoid these problems before they happen. So we create elegant solutions where technology and the production process is invisible. If you had a team of people, like Gary Vaynerchuk, for instance, you'd strategize with them, come up with an idea, the marketing, production, all that, and then they go off and execute it. And to you, that would be invisible, and it would magically show up in your box the next day. Well, that's what we're looking to replicate. And the only way to do that is to hire a team of 5 or 10 people, or put constraints on the things that you're doing such that you don't have to have a whole bunch of meetings, a whole bunch of back and forth, and you have standard best practices, wise practices, and inspired standards that govern everything you do. There's really only 2 ways to do that, right? And the second way, by making things simple, by using wise practices, that's 100% within your control. And so it's the easiest way to become more efficient and therefore more profitable.
Wow, and everybody wants to be more profitable, absolutely. So in business, attention to detail is key. So you call it mastering the mundane tasks required each day. So what does this look like to you?
Yeah, well, I'm a detail person, and attention to detail is critical if you want to create frictionless solutions. You know, all things are done with intention with Digital Samurai. It's a principle that guides how we design our programs. No matter how small the detail, there's direction in all that we do. We've thought through all of these tasks. Mundane tasks like naming files and putting things in specific directories may seem annoying at first, and it does take a little getting used to, but it takes you 5 or 10 seconds to name a file. You're going to spend a lot more time looking for things. People waste about 25% of their time looking for things, and they don't find them, and then they have to do them over again. But it's far more efficient than others. You'll be far more efficient than others if you're doing that and they're not. So mastering the mundane, which is a very Japanese strategy, is really critical if you want to become efficient and take the friction out of what you do.
Well, and Martin, it's interesting you say that because a lot of times people say, oh, it's so hard to make this change and it's taking me more time, and they revert back to what they did before. But Digital Samurai teaches clients to leverage samurai thinking in this digital age. So can you give me an example of how the audience can leverage this samurai thinking?
Yeah, well, samurai thinking is about adopting a strategy practiced by samurais for 1,200 years. The art of the Japanese sword, as I mentioned, is called Iaido. I'm a 5th degree black belt in that. It's all about efficiency and precision. Samurai were constantly refining their movements in order to perfect their craft. And Digital Samurai integrated this strategy into everything we do. We are client experience obsessed. We're obsessed with taking the friction and the noise and the steps and time out of every process.
Wow, that's impressive. Of being able to take friction and noise. Tell me about noise for a minute. Well, what do you, when you say that, what's noise?
Noise is, I can't find the file. Did you get this? No, I didn't. Where's the link? Right? You can solve those things. Again, for communication, you want to make sure you're sending everything to the person so that they don't have to ask a question. If they have to ask you something back, you failed. You're communicating. Mm-hmm. And you don't want them to have to do that because maybe you say, something like, take a look at this video. But then you don't tell them where it is. And they don't see it till the next day. And the next day they say, where's the link? And then you send them the link. But the link didn't work. And then another day goes by. Now you're 2 days in and they still haven't looked at the video. We want you to be reviewing the materials, not figuring out how to find the materials or play them. Right? So it's really important. Every strategy is a filter through the lens of how many steps and how much time it is. And it doesn't matter how small that increment is, It's a binary decision. Again, in martial arts, it's exactly the same thing. Each step or second is a potential profit unit. So the only thing you have to figure out is, do you want to keep that profit unit or throw it away? That's the binary decision. And again, this is samurai thinking. It doesn't matter how small. When you're swinging a sword, the angle of the sword is called the hasuji. The hasuji, this is right, this is wrong. Right, wrong, right, wrong. It's millimeters difference, right? And so that mindset is the same in technology. If it's one more step to do it this way, some people, oh, it's just another step. No, that's a profit unit. So you can either take that step away or you can throw away that profit unit. Now, some people aren't, don't really care about that stuff. Okay, but you're not going to be as efficient. You're going to be wasting time, and you're going to be behind other people that are doing these things. So you want to have this mindset of, no matter how small the detail, no matter how small the step, or how small the amount of time I'm going to save, I'm going to take it. And that's samurai thinking.
And for some people that are more mindful and they approach things in a mindful way, it's about doing what they say, doing what serves you versus what doesn't serve you. So that's another way to look at it as well. So I love that. Well, let's switch gears for a minute and let's touch on content. So creating organic content and capturing spontaneous moments of creativity is critical, and it's a skill that needs to be learned. So how can our listeners prepare to develop this skill? Because we all need content.
Well, there's lots of different types of content, and there's lots of different providers and outsourced people that do this stuff. Some people will talk about content and say, we'll take over your content and we'll do it for you so you don't have to do anything else. Or you can focus on something else. And that's fine, but the only real content that's really going to move the needle, and by that I mean get people to give you money, is original content from the founder, from the CEO, from the person who's the expert. So capturing spontaneous moments of creativity is challenging because ideas don't just happen on schedule. Okay, I'm going to come up with ideas. No, it doesn't work that way. It's an organic process. You're walking down the stairs and you think of something. You're out and you see something that triggers an idea. I was out walking and I saw the Ontario Lottery had a booth and they were, giving out lottery tickets and promoting stuff with one of those little tents. So I went over there and I got the ticket. And that prompted me to come up with a video about that particular process. So you have to set yourself up for success and make it easy for you to capture information on any device, anytime, and anywhere. Because if you don't do that, you won't do it. Humans are lazy. We all are, right? And things are hard and we're really busy. So you have to make time to do that. But if you make it easy for yourself to do that, so you don't have to think about which device you're on or where you're at, you don't have to upload that thing or email it to yourself or any of those silly little things, then you will do it. Then you can focus much more on, what do I want to talk about? What is my message? What is my offer? Not the technology issues in order to capture that stuff. So the original content, capturing original content, is the most valuable content. It's also the messiest. And that's the stuff that we focus on.
And it is messy and challenging, Martin. I know for myself, it's still something that I'm challenged with. Just thinking, oh, I could take a video of that, or oh, I could capture that. So it's definitely that learned skill that we talked about. And I love the examples that you gave as to how people can get this capturing spontaneous moments. Well, you work with clients, and when you do this, you emphasize something you were just talking about, that frictionless client experience. So how do you help them achieve this goal?
Well, most people don't do this. We start by fixing technology chaos. And the way we do that is by giving the clients our system of tools. We have 12 standardized tools that we use. Prime Directive number 3, they're always the best tool for the job. We are a Google house, so most of them are Google, but not all. And by using these tools in very specific ways, we use very specific tools in very specific ways. And I'll say this because a lot of people don't understand this. Tactics are infinitely more important than tools. People get hung up on the tools. I like this app. I like this type of phone. I like this SaaS service. And let's try this one and this one and this one. Tactics, how you use those tools, is infinitely more important than which tool you use. And because we give you our tools, we've done the research on that, and we've come up with the best ways to use that tool. Because it's one thing to have the tool, but it's quite another to set it up. ChatGPT, for instance. Everyone has access to that, but it's only really valuable if you know how to ask it the prompt questions. And so we know what you have when we set up your system, so you don't have to learn the tool. All you have to do is listen to what we say. We send you a micro lesson and say, push that button. Okay. Now that button will do X, Y, Z because we've set it up, but you don't have to learn the tool. We act as the...
Martin, that takes that onus off. I literally was talking to somebody yesterday who said, "Oh, I've got so many things that come at me and I don't know what to do." And that's that decision fatigue. So you telling them, giving them that direction, push the button, do whatever, because you've already been able to evaluate the tool and know the way to use it. As you call it, you're the orchestra leader.
Exactly. And because I'm a highly detailed, I love doing that. I love diving in and figuring out what's the best thing to use. And people jump around a lot, right? So I tell them, focus. You don't really want to know, you don't need to know all that other stuff. You just need to know how to do this one thing. And by acting as the orchestra leader, we manage all that back-end production, and we issue the production to our outsourced workers or whoever it might be. So the client can focus on more important tasks like revenue generating activities. How much time are you spending on revenue generating activities versus fixing tech or production problems? Those are the things we solve for, and that's really what you want to look at. There's 3 pieces to that, Michelle. The first one is fixing the technology chaos. We call that getting ready for the big race, right? We streamline the tech, we streamline communications, we show you how to use the tools that we're doing. The second one we look at is intelligence. That's what is the strategy? How are you going to get to clients? What is your message? What's your offer? How are you going to do your lead gen and all of that kind of thing? And then the third piece is production. A lot of people just start with production. I need a website. I need a video. Those are just tools. You don't need a website. You need a strategy. You don't need a video. You need talking points. You need a call to action. You need all the stuff that goes in the video. The video is just the end result. So looking at technology first, intelligence second, strategy, message, offer, and then, and only then, production. Those 3 things in that order is how we make it so you have this frictionless client experience.
Wow, that's so important. And you mentioned strategy there. That's interesting because Digital Samurai, you have what you call this MATG, so management and marketing and strategy system, which is MATG. So you aim to bridge the gap between technology's capability and that practical application. So in business, billionaires often talk about that last mile problem. So Martin, how does this relate to your system and how you guide clients?
Well, Jeff Bezos often talks about, the founder of Amazon, the last mile problem. And his last mile problem is getting the parcel from the warehouse to your door. It's the most expensive part of that. The telcos have that same problem. Well, so do entrepreneurs in the digital age. They have to deal with a lot of last mile problems. Everyone knows outsourcing can be valuable, right? And there's lots of outsourcers out there. But their challenge is, which one do you choose? What questions do you ask? How do you know if they're any good? That's a last mile problem. Figuring out the best outsourcer. Or creating a sales funnel. What does that look like? A drip campaign. Which software should I use? What does it look like? Which social media platform could you use? In a sea of infinite supply, brand is the most important thing. But figuring out how to build your brand using all these tools, those are all last mile problems. We solve last mile problems because we've done the homework, we've done the due diligence, we've looked at the outsourcing, we've looked at the drip campaigns, which funnels to use, which SaaS services to use. We've done all that due diligence and spend tens of thousands of dollars doing it so you don't have to. And that is what you should be looking for when you're looking for people to work with. Do they solve the problems that you don't want to solve, shouldn't be solving, such that you can focus on revenue generating activities?
Well, and Martin, the key thing there is that they shouldn't be solving. A lot of entrepreneurs feel they have to do everything themselves. I'm the only one that can do that. Well, for your core piece of business, that may be true. But if you're not a experienced salesperson, if you haven't experienced doing sales funnels or drip campaigns, that's not something for them to do. They want to outsource that. I had a client tell me they were challenged with buying ads. Oh, I don't know what to do. Well, then why would you do it? Get the people that know what to do, right, Martin? It's about
Yeah.
finding those elements
Yeah.
that are not key core competency, as you say.
Yeah, you can waste a lot of money on ad buying, right? We had a campaign going for a pain relief product, so we used the keyword. I think it was arthritis pain relief. Well, when I set it up, the click was 23 cents per click. 3 hours later, it was $25 per click. So in like 3 hours, I spent $300. You really got to watch that kind of stuff. Again, people will tell you that they can do all this stuff for you, but then how do you know, right? You want to work with someone that has a complete end-to-end solution. So there's one place for communication, one place for you to talk to get answers, right? Because the video guys over here don't necessarily know how to talk with the email marketing guys over there. And the email marketing guys may not know anything about ad buying and which platform to go on. So you really want to make sure you have someone that is giving you an overall solution, an end-to-end solution. And our strategy system, management strategy, we call it that because those are the two most important pieces. We've done production for decades, but management and strategy, which is what message, what offer, and how to get to market, what's your go-to-market strategy, what does your target avatar look like, you should be looking at all of that stuff before you even start ad buying or production. And that's exactly what we do.
Management and strategy. Love it. So we've shared a lot today, Martin. So what are the key takeaways for our audience?
Well, finding ways to be more efficient is our number one, which is why we start with fixing the technology stuff. Communicating better, just that one thing. I recommend strongly that you limit the places for communication and tell your team to do the same thing. Every program wants you to communicate. Like Dropbox has a communication thing. So does Zoom. So does Meet. Most of the things do. They want you to use their program because it's in their best interest, but not yours. If you have to ask where that communication is, you didn't see it. Was it email? Was it Dropbox? Was it Signal? Was it WhatsApp? Blah, 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 blah. No, you don't want that. So I recommend in your business you make one place for communication and eliminate unnecessary steps and actions. And you can do that by doing things like naming files. Making any improvements to the way you manage data and communications will make everything you do more efficient, and that goes right to the bottom line. That's why we start with that. You know, I watched this woman once. She was taking notes at an event I was at, and she opened up her laptop. She typed in the password. She went to open up Microsoft Word, and then she scrolled down to the part she was at, and she typed 5 words. I was looking at just thinking, just kill me now. Like, that is painful to watch, right? Because that's what she was used to, so she didn't have a better way of doing it. But you really want to think through how you manage data, how you communicate. So instead of solving technology issues and production issues and miscommunication, you're then focusing again on revenue-generating activities. You can focus on your message and your offer. So I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And that is the same philosophy in martial arts. You practice your waza, your exercises. You swing the sword. You do whatever it is. That's one of the great things about martial arts, especially for kids. It teaches you discipline and consistency. And there's lots of things you can do to do that. But being consistent with these processes, consistently naming files, consistently putting them away, consistently looking at ways to minimize the amount of steps and time. All of these things are foundational things that will make everything else you do simpler.
I love that quote, Martin. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Well said. Well, you've given our audience a wealth of knowledge today, Martin. Thank you so much. It's been great to have you here. And your final words from the twins here?
Do work you love, design your future, and monetize your story. Who doesn't want to do that?
Yes, exactly. So from the twins, Martin and Michelle Ricketts, thanks for joining us today. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon.